Well, hello artists. We are going to start the lesson of drawing my pet. This lesson I know many of you are super excited to do, and I'm going to be drawing my cat. His name is Boo, and here's the photo that I have of him, which just happens to be on my computer. And I'm going to use a photo because he's not the kind of guy that likes to stay still for very long. So I'm going to use this picture that I have of him. And you're welcome to use either a picture or you can try to do it from life if your cat or dog is sleeping, or if you're drawing a hamster or anything else. You might want to use a photograph. It depends on how much they like to move around. That's my own opinion. So I'm starting off here. I've got my biggest shapes of my pet. So the biggest shapes that I have right here are this circle, slightly oval, but more of a circle shape of the head. And then I'm starting to make this big oval shape of the body. So I'm just going to show you on the photo. That's this oval shape here and the head. Those are my two largest shapes. I'm going to start off with drawing those shapes, and then I'll start to show you some of the next steps with all of the smaller shapes, and also background will be a little bit later. We're just basically working out those large shapes on the paper so that we have it placed really well, so that you're not going to run off the page, like the legs aren't going to come off to the end, and that's why you want to draw these big shapes first. All right, we'll be right back. All right, I now have defined a bit more that large shape of the body and the smaller oval shape of the head, and I'm trying to find the relationship between them. I'm just looking, there's this larger oval, and then there's a small sort of coned shape that is making up the shape of the neck. So I don't want to have those necessarily overlapping, this oval and this large oval, but I definitely want to kind of show that defined separation between the two, where the neck is. I'm also starting to find the regular shape of it. So I started out making a large oval, but now I'm starting to define, for example, here's this kind of straight line that is happening at the back haunches of my cat, and this part is more circular, so I'm defining that a little bit more. And the next thing I'm going to do is start to draw in the legs. Now, lots of you are going to think about the legs separately, but really they're just all a whole thing. I mean, if you take a look at this, the connection of this leg to the body, it all blends in because of all this fur and everything else. So even though you're going to have a defined shape here, it's going to kind of come off. So you want to imagine that there's another oval here. You don't have to draw it in, and you can see I'm saying this, don't draw it in dark, okay? Everything that I'm doing is light, and that's so that I can easily erase things once I feel like I've gotten that shape there. Now, if you take a look at this leg, you do kind of see that there's an oval connecting here, but it's not really defined. So it's going to help us to get this shape in here and connect it to the foot and the leg. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because it's one of my larger shapes. I'm also going to start on this front leg in a second too. So here I have my back leg a bit more defined, and there it is in the photograph. And I'm actually realizing as I started working on the front legs that I made this way too big, so I'm going to be erasing that. And then I started my front legs as well, connecting them to this top part of the body, and I started to define the shape of it. It's more of a long, skinny kind of tube shape. So I'm drawing that in, and I'm shading as I go. And then this other leg is behind that first leg, and you just see a hint of the foot coming out behind it. So I'm doing that exact same thing with my drawing. I'm going to do a little bit more of adjusting this size, erasing some of that so that it looks more proportional, and we'll be back again. So here is the basic shapes of my cat. I've got this large shape of the body, smaller oval of the head, I've defined the legs a bit more, and I'm pretty happy with them now, although, yeah, I don't know, this one still feels a little big to me. I've got my front legs defined, and I've started to work on the tail. So now I'm going to start to add some details, and as I'm adding details, I'm thinking that this may start to change even more, because as I'm working on the shapes, I had to erase things quite a bit. I found out that I made the body too big this way, so I erased up here. I also had to erase a little bit underneath the chin here, so lots of erasing. So that's why I always say to keep your pencil lines nice and light. Next thing I'm going to start to do before I start on details is just draw the line of the floor, the line of this wall, and the line of, I think this is like our back door, screen door here. So we're going to draw in those lines just so that the cat is in a specific space. All right. So here is my pretty much finished outline of my cat with all my basic shapes. I've also included the background in here, and I'm pretty happy with that background. So I'm going to get started on some of the details. The details that I'm going to work on today are not coloring. I'm just going to work on getting the placement of the eye and nose and mouth and the ears in a little bit more detail, and also each one of these toes so that the feet really feel like they're placed well. All of these lines that are in my cat's fur, I'm going to end up doing when I do the coloring step, which is next. It's going to be next week. The lesson for next week. So if you're going to be doing that, I recommend just working real hard to get the shapes of your pet all ready to go, and then you'll be able to work on coloring later. Okay, so we're going to start with some of the details, and I'll be right back. So here I have the details of my cat's features. So I've drawn in the eyes. Cat eyes are so cool. And I've kind of made the line of the nose here, and I've also started to define the mouth, and I'm really looking at it in relationship to the neck that is like he's kind of got his head scrunched up a little bit in this picture, but that's okay. So I'm including those details, and I've also started to define the ears a little bit more. And then you can do as many more of those kind of little details as you might want to. I'm also doing a tiny bit of shading, which just means I'm taking my pencil and kind of going back and forth wherever there is a little bit of shadow. And I may also do that around the legs just to show that this is, oh, I did that a little bit here, that this is behind the other leg. So that's pretty much where you want to be at once you are finished with your drawing, is you want to get features in, big shapes in, details of the eyes, nose, mouth, ears, some of the details of the feet, things like that. And not so much coloring yet because, like I said, we're going to do coloring next week. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will look forward, always to, I say this all the time, but please send me your pictures. If you would like me to put them on the shared Seesaw photo album page, it keeps getting longer and longer. And also I'm going to be, I've asked everyone to send me pictures that they'd like to have in the virtual art show. I hope you've heard about that too. I'm just reminding you here. So we'll look for the next video next week, and I hope you enjoyed this. Okay, everyone, bye-bye.